everyone, and welcome back to Take This TV, the television book show podcast where each week we watch an episode or two of our favorite shows, and we talk about it with our friends in the fandom. That's you! Oh my gosh, hello there, friend. I'm Carmen Askernes, and I'm joined as always by the one and only America's best friend, Erin Fusco. Hello.
Hello. I jumped in too soon with my hi, but I just thought I got excited about being back in the fictional
you just said
studio
hi
that
twice,
we have
it's our second
to
season.
talk about TV. Yeah. Hi. Yeah, you got to say one more hi for every season that you do. It's really going to get most of an episode by the time we get to like season 45.
Wow.
It's going to be an episode full of highs.
45 seasons of Take This TV.
Ooh. There's more than 45 shows in the world. I bet we could find.
Yeah, sure.
I bet we could find it.
Well, this season we are going to be taking a break from Winona Earp, even though we love it. We love Way Hot, my soul.
Yeah.
But this season we're going to be watching a show that we both love and we both are fans of called Arcane.
Yes. So that's on Netflix. And Winona Earp was my suggestion because it was a show that I had watched and I loved. And then we were sort of thinking, although we are going to probably go back to watch season 2 because Carmen's not allowed to watch it without recording this podcast. But we thought we'd like sort of switch back and forth of a show that I like but Carmen's never seen, a show that we've both seen and are rewatching together, and then a show that Carmen has seen that I've never seen, which I'm sure will be hard because I watch way too much TV.
Yes. Well, friends, we are sort of going to just kind of jump in and tell you a bit about how we feel about this show Arcane, and we would also love to just hear from you. And so at the end of the episode, we'll also kind of give you some prompts, but as you're listening to this, like, be thinking of, like, what are some of the things about Arcane that you love? And be sure to hit us up on socials and tell us. So unlike Winona Earp, like Erin said, we're switching it up, and this is a show we both love. I actually played League of Legends back in 2012.
Okay, so I assume if you're listening to this that you've watched the show and you, like, Googled it and, like, it came up that it is a League of Legends show.
Oh, yeah, spoilers,
but it is sort of, it's based on the lore of League of Legends, which, so you've been a player since 2012?
No, I played it one time in 2012. Yeah.
In 2012. I see. Okay. Were you,
so
like, a big League player?
My friends and I were like, oh, this is really cool. And I had a friend who kind of introduced me to it, and she was like, oh, yeah, like, there are these characters, and there's, like, this world, and she's, like, giving me all the lore, and I was like, this sounds sick. And we started playing it, and I was like, well, this is not what you described.
It has nothing to do. So that's mostly my problem. I have played League 3 times. Twice the regular League game, one time Teamfight Tactics. And I said, this is way too many mechanics. The lore has nothing to do with this. There's 700 characters to learn about, which would be fun if there were 700 seasons of this show. I would love that. This show is great. But for me to like learn and then like learn what armor is best for them and how to build a good build during a game, it was too much for me. And not the kind, listen, it's not a bad game if that's what you like. It's not the kind of game that like I tend to enjoy. And so even though I've had friends who have tried to get me into it who are really big fans of League, I was like, listen, I'm out. I can't do it. It's not for me. But this show, I can talk about the lore with you because I do enjoy this show.
Heck yeah. I do like watching like LCS, like the League Championship Series, and like watching the World Championships. It's just cool to see people like who really understand the game. But most of the time when I'm watching it, I'm really listening to the casters because I'm like, I have no idea what's happening.
Yeah. Oh, and they interrupted the queue.
But anyway, back to Arcane.
It's the same thing. So in this season, we are specifically looking at one part of this world, which, boy howdy, I can't tell you what the world is called.
There is an Undercity.
Right. Well, we're looking at Piltover, which is the city. That is the... I do know that. I don't know what the, like, land of League of Legends is called, because there's, like, a bunch of different areas. That's my bad. I'll Google that later. But so we're talking about the city of Piltover, and we start this season sort of in the past. So there's 9 episodes in this season, I think, and Netflix originally, like, chunked them out in, like, 3-episode bits. And so these first 2, we're dealing sort of with, like, the past and like how we get to the Piltover. It's sort of like an origin story of like where we get to the Piltover that is the version of the city that exists sort of in the game, even though the lore in the game is like not.
Somebody is raging listening to this right now.
No, I mean, but it doesn't have anything to do with the gameplay. Like, lore exists, but also there are canonical AUs where they're all the Sailor Moon Scouts. So, like, don't come at me and be like, the lore is important. I'm sure it is, but it doesn't have anything to do with
it's like Overwatch.
Gameplay. Yeah, exactly. There's good lore. I would watch an Overwatch show.
Sure, yeah.
But it has really nothing to do with how you play the game. So, yes, we're talking about Piltover. It's really in the beginning in these 2 episodes, you see the like class warfare between the people who live in the upper city and the people who live in the undercity. And I'll read out the episode recaps that Netflix has written. Again, our love to people who write the person whose job it is to write Netflix.
Let us know if that's
recaps. The descriptors. But I will say that they do call it Zon. They call the underground Zon, which in this series is when it gets its name. But they really do, they sort of just call it that originally, even though they don't start calling it until later.
So I thought that Zon was like the realm, and then Piltover was the city, and then the Undercity was like the slums of Piltover.
Well, the Undercity is the slums of Piltover, but I think Zon is the name of the Undercity when they like wrote that.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I just Googled the league. It says it's the large Undercity district underneath Piltover.
The more you know.
So,
look at that.
Yeah. And that's why it's important to look at all of the lore for a thing that is
so
interesting to you.
So are we doing episode 1 and 2 together, or are we going to do them one at a time? What do you think?
Yeah, well, let's talk about what happens in each. Let me read these episode recaps, and then we can just sort of jump into them as a whole, because we've watched them together, and they sort of all fit together in the story. So, the first episode, orphaned sisters Vi and Powder bring trouble to Zon's underground streets in the wake of a heist in posh Piltover. And then episode 2, idealistic inventor Jace attempts to harness magic through science, despite his mentor's warnings. Criminal kingpin Silco tests a powerful substance. I also don't think they name Silco until later in the show. But
yeah, that's why I never read those descriptions. Because I also was like, if there's a character who's supposed to be like a secret, I didn't want to know about it, because they might name it because people know the game, you know? And so I was like, since I don't know anything about either, I'm just going to go in blind.
Well, from what I can tell, Silco's not in the game, so I don't think that it's really that big.
I remember the first time I watched this show, a friend was like, hey man, there's this really great video game show, and it's based on like the League of Legends world. And I was like, and he was like, no, it's good. And so I watched the first episode. Oh my gosh. And I was like, what is this show about? Because I think the first episode ended in a way, I was thinking that the thing that really hooked me happened in the first episode. I think it actually happens in the 3rd or 4th episode. You know what I'm talking about. We'll get to it later. But
episode 3?
When stuff happens, yeah.
When everything happens?
For some reason, I was thinking that was the pilot, but that's not true. But anyway, I was intrigued by the pilot. I actually really liked that it sort of set up real stakes for the characters. And I thought that it, like, Castlevania was the first, like, video game show, animated show that kind of felt like it did something new and interesting and wasn't, like, just trying to rely so heavily on the games and, like, cater to that fandom. And I think that, I mean, as somebody who doesn't know anything about the games, to me, this was exciting.
Castlevania?
Well, I mean, I don't know anything about the lore of Castlevania. I was like, there's Dracula and you're a vampire hunter. And that's
vampires? About it. Yeah.
And that vampire.
Yeah. I think there's a castle.
At some point. Yeah. But no, I just thought it was really exciting that like they set up such an interesting world, and all of the characters immediately felt like they were, even though the world is really bright and vibrant and the colors of the show are bright and vibrant, the world felt dangerous.
At least in the upper city. In the lower city, it's very dark.
Shout out to
you can't see the
art crew on that show. Like the visual storytelling that they do between the life in the upper and lower cities is really compelling too.
Yeah, I think the art style is just incredible too. Like I really enjoy the character design, I enjoy the background design, and just the way that they make this world feel alive. And I guess part of that is you do have the League of Legends lore to rely on. Like there is so much existing content to look at and like world building to look at there. But I do think it immediately hooked me as well. Just like the way that they introduce the world. Because episode 1 just starts right in the middle of a battle, right? So you see how Vander adopts Vi and Powder. Although you don't learn the significance of that moment sort of until episode 2, I want to say, in a moment in these 2 episodes where he talks to Vi about how her parents died
dead parents.
in that battle.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to orphan them to make them sad. Obviously, you got to make them all sad.
Their little heist crew I thought was really interesting too. Crime children. Rooftop heist in the fancy swanky apartment. Yeah,
Jace's lab, yeah. Jace's fancy apartment that Caitlin's parents paid for.
Okay, we'll get to Jace and Caitlin in a second, because I was like, I have questions.
Okay, I'm happy to answer them as somebody who rewatched these 2 episodes right before we recorded this. Literally in the hour before we recorded this.
But no, I was just going to say that, I love that Powder feels like the little sibling who's just kind of tagging along because she really looks up to her big sister. And I think from the first few seconds of a heist, it really endears you to Powder. And I actually had a harder time connecting to Vi until she protected Powder when they were running. I felt like at first I was like, Vi gave me real okay, this is a deep cut. The one dog from Oliver and Company who's the mentor dog. Dodger, yeah.
Yeah, Dodger. Isn't that his name? Because it's based on Oliver Twist, and that is also the character in Oliver Twist.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense, but...
We're having revelations here. You didn't know Oliver and Company was Oliver Twist.
I also don't know if I've ever seen Oliver Twist, so...
Please, sir, I want some more.
For the pool. No, I've never seen it, so...
Or read it as a book. Okay, well, then you wouldn't know. Yeah, there's no reason you would know.
She's giving me real Dodger vibes.
She reminds you of Dodger, right, because she runs a crew of street children. Yeah. No, I can see the connection.
I was like, oh, okay, whatever. I mean, she's cool, I guess. But then when she was, sticking up for her little sister, I was like, oh, okay. And that street fight was really cool because I felt like sometimes when you see kids fighting in shows and stuff, it's they're just kids, they're scrapping or whatever, but there aren't really stakes, everybody's okay. But these kids were hurting each other, and it's this is dangerous. And so I think that was also a really cool way for them to establish these kids' lives are really hard, and they are living day by day, and they really have to fight to survive. And then it makes you feel so bad for Powder, especially when she's off on her own. She's getting chased. And she has to, she drops the bag into the water or whatever. Yeah, so anyway.
I mean, I agree with you. I think they do a great job of setting up Vi as the leader, immediately. It's so immediately clear that she runs this crew. But I don't know, I was endeared to Vi, immediately, just because you see her in the beginning of the battle sequence, and clearly she told Powder to close her eyes and sing a song. That's why the whole episode starts with her singing that upbeat song in the middle of a battle. Well, not upbeat, but tonally different song in the middle of this battle. And Vi is holding her hand, clearly protect her. And even when the other 2 are giving Powder a little bit of shit for coming on this job at all, I told you she couldn't do it. Vi is there Powder, what did I tell you this morning? You're ready. And she makes that jump to the other rooftop, and she grabs her hand to steady her when she's about to fall. And so to me, immediately I was like, this is a girl who will do anything for this kid. And she defends her the entire time too. There's a little bit of a classic TV conundrum where Powder overhears one part of a conversation and then gets upset about it. But we as the audience know that Vi was saying that to prove a point and immediately turned on her friend to make that point. But I do just sort of wish that there was anyone Powder's age to hang out with, but other than Echo, we don't really see any other kids.
Yeah, I mean, I think that definitely influences Powder and how she sees the world. But yeah, I mean, it also, I think, is tells us a lot about the Undercity and about how if there are kids, they're alone and they have to just kind of stick with whoever they can. And most of the times it might be older kids or Echo, what's his bucket, the bar owner.
Vander's friend. Vander, right? Oh, yeah. Ooh, if you think I wrote that guy's name down, it didn't seem important. But I know. Yeah, Echo works in the guy's thrift store or pawn
my
shop.
bad.
Or whatever.
Yeah, Vander has the bar and the other guy has like a pawn shop, yeah.
Right. Yeah. I literally just watched it and I didn't think to write down his name. It did not seem important. They showed me his shop sign about 4 or 5 times and I was like, I will never need to talk about this man. But here you are bringing him up, expecting me to know. Darn it. Yeah.
What are some of your favorite bits, Aaron?
We've been sort of talking about it. First of all, I just want to say and put it down here in writing, in speech. I don't care what anyone says about Imagine Dragons. Like, this theme song is freaking catchy. Like, it's a good song. You can call Imagine Dragons the new Nickelback all you want, but this is a good, catchy song, and I think they get a bad rap. I think their songs are good, and this song is good.
I've never heard somebody refer to Imagine Dragons as the new Nickelback.
Really? Someone told me that recently, and I feel like I had to passionately defended Imagine Dragons, and then sent them all this song specifically to be like, you're telling me the theme song of Arcane doesn't slap? You're telling me Imagine Dragons didn't write a bop with this one?
That is funny. I just remember them writing Immortal for Big Hero 6 in like 2014. And I was like, yeah, that's a great song, but I can't tell you another Imagine Dragons song other than, oh, okay, yeah.
Radioactive. You have heard Radioactive.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great song.
And it's a good song. Are you telling me you don't like that song?
I like that song in moderation. How about that?
Okay. Fair enough. I think
some songs I can have on repeat, but not that one.
No. I mean, the way I listen to songs is on repeat until my brain is sick of it and I never hear it again for 16 years, you know? Like, that's what I do. That's how I listen to music. Again. No, listen, I might not skip it if Photograph comes up, okay? But I'm not seeking it out to listen to.
Then you're not going to skip.
Yeah, the way that I listen to music, which is just put my liked songs on shuffle.
The appropriate way, yeah.
The only way that I know how. Right. Well, you can get back. Let's talk more about Arcane. In my notes, I talk a little bit of shit about Jace. So one thing that I'm going to say sort of at the top of this recording about Arcane, at the top of the season, as we go into Arcane, is that I have described this show as all of the characters are competing in the Bad Decision Olympics. Every single one of them is competing in Bad Decision Olympics. I think maybe Vi, in my recollection, maybe Vi makes the least bad decisions, but I think pretty much across the board, every single character wants to win Bad Decision Olympics. I give a pass to them as children. I think the decisions that Vi and Powder make when they are children get a pass because they are children, and that the adults in their life should have been maybe more involved in the bad decisions that they were making and made better ones. But Jace, who is 24 years of age,
at the start of the
show, and then there's going to be, spoilers, there's a little bit of a time skip, but we skip forward several years and he is no longer 24, but they specifically call out that he's 24 years old.
I thought he was like a teenager at the beginning of the show. I didn't know that.
Nope. He is a 24-year-old man. At the top.
So we both have seen this show before. And okay, yeah, we'll try not to jump ahead as we're talking about episodes, but sometimes we might, so beware spoilers. But we hope that if you're like watching it along with us, of like whatever episodes you're watching with the podcast comes out, welcome, and we'll try not to spoil it for you.
Yeah, I don't think saying that there's a time skip is that bad.
Yeah, worst kept secret.
I think it's established in the show.
I will say that from the jump also, Jace is my least favorite character. I remember the first time I watched it and I was like, this dude sucks. And the first few episodes, and then I was like, okay, he's going to get better later. It's fine. And to me, he didn't. So I'm sorry.
No, because he wants to win Bad Decision Olympics.
He got the gold.
I think we should talk about that as we approach each character's decisions, and maybe we'll crown a winner at the end. But that is how I have been referring to it with my friends, just because I'm like, at every turn, when somebody could make the correct decision, they just make a bad one. But I also think that what I find really interesting and really well done with this show, as I joke about everyone making bad decisions, is like everyone is playing their own game of political chess, but nobody knows what anyone else is doing. And so oftentimes people are making a decision that, from the character standpoint, you can understand why they've made that decision. But they didn't know characters B, C, and D were also plotting, and like what they're doing is messing everything up. You know what I mean?
Now, I will say, to me, that was one of the things I really liked about the show, because it felt more realistic. And I know people like to say, like, oh, I like the show because it's like Game of Thrones. That's one of the things I don't like about Game of Thrones, is only because, and it's not a Game of Thrones podcast, so we can get into that somewhere else. But I'll just say, like, I won't rewatch that for me either.
Sorry, I won't do
super done with that show. But I'll just briefly say the only reason I say that is because I felt like in that show they established, if I get the upper hand on somebody and I have the correct allegiances, I can kill this person. And there were several times where the air quotes good guys had the upper hand on somebody and then they didn't kill that person, or the bad guys didn't kill a particular main character because of plot reasons. And to me, then it fell apart, because it's like, well, if that's the whole point of the show, if that's like in the world, if I was operating in that world as that character and I get the upper hand on this person, why would I not kill this person? And it's like, oh, because 4 seasons from now, they're going to be the freaking king or whatever. Like, so.
Yeah, I feel like we could maybe have a Game of Thrones podcast. I would argue that there is one family who was raised to not take advantage politically, and the ones that survived that family were perhaps the ones that understood that you had to, that maybe their father's morals got him killed.
For sure, except that one person who just was on a whole, except
Jonathan Snow.
Jon Snow's a whole other thing. Okay, mild spoilers for Game of Thrones. Here it is.
I'm sorry if you haven't watched it at this point.
If you don't want to hear about Game of Thrones.
No, we're getting off on a tangent. What are you saying?
I hate Bran. That's all. That's it. Bran sucks. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Everyone.
Okay, anyway, back to
who
Arcane.
likes him. Yeah. It's fine. Anyway, all I'm saying is Sansa should have been crowned queen. It's not important.
Anyway,
continue. So yes. So Jace is a dummy. Why did you hide a bunch of magic bombs in your apartment?
Why did you hide a bunch of magic bombs?
Dumb.
If you knew that you were going to get in trouble for having them, why are they in your house?
Oh, well, I don't know. Yeah. So, I mean, we get a little bit of Jace backstory in episode 2, because it starts with him and his mom wandering the cold, snowy mountain, which I think is one of the only times we see somewhere other than Piltover. In this season, at least. And I'm hoping that they get renewed for 1 million seasons, because I would like to explore like the entire land. Because you get hints, you get little bits of like, if there's other countries and other places besides Piltover, but I'd love to explore that more. I think they've built a very interesting world. So like, we don't know. I don't know where those snowy mountains are. I don't really know where Jace is from, but you see him and his mom wandering the snowy mountains, his mom dying of exposure, and some sort of magician mage appearing and using a stone with some runes on it to teleport them out of the snowy mountain. And this drives Jace to be like, magic is real and can be harnessed, and maybe I can use science to do it. But clearly, and I don't think that this is really properly explained, and I'm not sure that it's a good or a bad thing, other than like, I'm very interested in the lore now of this show, of this world. But Professor Heimerdinker, the Furby. There's a real name for them. That escapes me, but the
with
Furby
the dog
boy.
Person?
Yes, gosh. Okay. You're going to make me look it up. Hold on. Heimerdinger
a Yordle.
Is a Yordle. Which, to be fair, I don't know that they say in this show. I just know from people in my life talking about League of Legends to me. I call them Furbies, but obviously they are Yordles.
They
look like Furbies,
Furby,
am I wrong? So Heimerdinger alludes to it a little bit where he's like, I'm 307 years old. There was a time where mages were causing huge problems, where like magic was very dangerous, and Piltover was established to get away from the mages who were like scrapping for power and causing huge world destruction events. So I just don't feel like they really explain it enough in the show. Like, obviously, Heimerdinger's like, it's bad, and we're supposed to trust him because he lived through it, and like, firsthand account, I tend to believe that. But we don't see that. Like, we don't know. And so Jace, who is 24, that's the reason that they say he's 24, because Heimerdinger is like, I'm 307. How old are you? Right, 24. Right, that's nothing. When he's like, in prison for his magical problems. Yeah. You are nothing. Yeah, but Jace, who is filled with the overconfidence that only a 24-year-old boy can have, is like, but magic can do so much good. And so you can see where he's coming from if you didn't live through it. I would personally just like to know more about that. Like, why are they so afraid of magic?
I don't know if Heimerdinger's a character from Law. Oh, he is? Okay, so then maybe that's like something in his backstory, like people who play the game or know the lore know what he's talking about. I think that'd be really interesting. Like, if you know, tell us. I would love to know.
Yeah, send me a link to the Law wiki.
But I like that as like a plot hook of like Heimerdinger, because he tells that to Jason confidence, if I'm not mistaken, because he like, it's like he lived through this traumatic event like Hiroshima or something like that in the past. And it's almost like society has kind of forgotten about it. And he feels like what Jace is doing could essentially have history repeat itself. And I think that's really interesting of like having a character with a long life who's essentially trying to hide the secrets of the world and the like history of the world and stuff like that to prevent tragedy.
I don't know that he's trying to so I don't know that he's hiding. I mean, he's definitely anti-using magic, but he talks about it specifically in the council meeting. So Jace gets arrested, right? So he's sitting in the cell and Heimerdinger comes in and he's like, listen, you're a baby. You don't understand. Magic is dangerous. So leave it out of your speech to the council. Don't bring it up. And they'll let you off with a slap on your wrist, I'm pretty sure, if you just admit that you did bad illegal science and you're sorry. And then Jace can't keep his mouth shut because he's in the council meeting and they're like, what were you working on? He's like, it doesn't matter. It didn't work out. So they're like, oh, so you blew up your apartment for bad science and bad ideas. Why are you even in the academy? And he's like, it's not a bad idea. It's magic. And then Heimerdinger's like, oh, facepalm. Like, I told you not to say that, but your pride got the better of you because you couldn't stand someone thinking you were a dumb scientist. And that's when he brings up, like, magic is dangerous. You shouldn't have been messing with it. I lived through it.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's not a secret then. So everybody kind of knows about it. I still think it's interesting, though. Yeah, I still think it's interesting. I just think Jace, like, man, like you said, the bad decision Olympics, I just feel like they should have threw my guys some more good decisions in there. It was just so hard to root for him.
Not a single one. There's not a single one. I mean, to be fair, and also this is sad, he does try to kill himself at the end of episode 2.
Yeah.
Because he's dramatic.
But he's like, he essentially lost everything. Like his research, his science, it's all meant so much to him. And I also just like, not to keep nitpicking on him, but like,
no, you
why
can.
He is so obsessed with the mage? Like, I was having a hard time buying that a little bit. Of like,
he saved his mom.
Yeah, no, I know he did, but like, to me, it felt like he was more obsessed with like, and later in the show, I figured out it was, well, to me, it seemed like he was more obsessed with the magic and like the fame and other stuff. But in the beginning, to me, it seemed like he was obsessed with finding that mage or recreating the power that specific mage had. And I was like, why does he care so much about that? You know, like, I thought that was kind of weird.
Yeah. I don't know that he was looking. I don't know. I guess I don't remember if he talks about it later. But I don't necessarily think he was, like, looking for that mage other than, like, you know, when you think if he grew up in a world where everyone had always told him magic was bad, right? Magic is evil, don't use magic. And then somebody, for seemingly no gain, uses this tool to save your mother, the person that you love. And also, it seems like his dad is dead. They didn't talk about it directly, but they, like, show an old photograph and play sad music. So, like, you're one parent, you're one remaining parent, and somebody doesn't ask anything, uses that power to save them. I can see why he would get obsessed with it, with being like, this is something that can be used for good. Everyone always told me it was used for bad, but I can use it for good, and I can marry it to science so that it's controllable. One of the council members says, the arcane is something you're born with. You can't use science to recreate it. And he's like, no. Like, people can use it. Everyone can use this great tool that saved my mom. So, like, I kind of buy that. We can talk about Jace's character journey as he goes through it later in later episodes. But I kind of buy it at the beginning, but it is very much, like, driven by pride, too, a little bit of, like, he jumps to talk about magic because they're insulting his work, like, when he tries to, like, undersell it because of what Heimerdinger says. And he, like, just the fact that he thinks he can. Just the fact that he thinks he's above the laws. I don't know. It's very much like... Okay, Jace. But then you get Victor, who shows up also and agrees with him, who saves his research journal from being burned and brings it to him and does save Jace's life also, because Jace is gonna, at the end of episode 2, is going to throw himself out of the big explosion in his apartment.
When I first saw that, at this point in the story, I was like, I wonder what Victor's angle is. I was really intrigued by that. But there are a lot of other interesting characters.
We'll learn more about Victor later.
And I just real quick, I wanted to jump over to Vander because I was like, I love me some good dads. Like, I feel like most of the time we got like bad dad, we got absent dad, we got sad dad, but like
dead dad.
Dead dad, yeah, that's a big one. But
a lot
good
of
dad,
those.
hell yeah, 2 thumbs up.
But also like good dad who wasn't
Found
a dad.
family dad.
I mean, I love that. But he adopted Vi and Powder. I think that moment at the beginning is such a character defining moment for him, where like you see him with his big iron fists and he's punching out the enforcer. And then across this like burned out bridge battlefield, he sees Vi and Powder, 2 baby children, standing there holding hands. And he, in that moment, decides that like their future is more important than this fight he can't win, than like dying in this battle. And he puts down his big gloves, his big iron fists, and he picks up the children. And so I think that speaks so much about his character and why he makes, some might say, the bad decisions that he makes in these episodes as well. Just like trying to be the peacekeeper and keep the peace, because like he chooses in that moment, like having a future is more important. And they have no one right now because their parents followed me into this battle and died. And he picks them up and carries them home. And I think you just see him throughout these 2 episodes, especially taking care of them the best way that he knows how. And he wasn't their father, but became 100%. Their dad.
I also think that it could be looked at of like, oh, well, they're like doing crime, #crimes. And so that makes him a bad dad. But I kind of look at it from the perspective of like, these people live really hard lives. They have to scrape to get by. And there's lots of political stuff happening in the world that's super unfair, and they're not hurting anybody. And so he's like allowing his daughters to sort of be who they are and like meeting them where they're at. And I think that like, that's a really interesting parenting or like version of parents that I feel like is only starting to be more common recently in media. Of like showing parents that are like, he's not like scolding them of like, you need to be in school, you need to change your life or get your life together. He's like meeting them where they're at.
And I think also meeting them where society allows them to be. Like, because as far as I can tell, there isn't a school they can go to. Like, there isn't a better life that they can get themselves into. And so I think that he is teaching them like how they can best survive in the world with the hand of cards they've been dealt. And I think it's a very realistic way that he has parented them, being like, but he is mad at them because he's like, I gave you rules for things you're allowed to do. Like, you don't go upstairs, you don't go to the upper city and cause trouble. You're allowed to pull whatever little heists you want to do because that is how we scrape to survive. But you have to do it within the bounds of like what is reasonable and safe in this world where nothing is reasonable or safe.
I also like how we learn about like how the Undercity kind of functions when we see the people of the Undercity expressing their discontent with some of the stuff that's happening. But most of them at least, do it with a respect for Vander. And then like when the officer from the upper city comes down to speak to him, and like there's the like younger person who's like, all right, I'm going to shake this place down or whatever. Oh, Marcus.
Marcus.
Yeah, we'll learn. He's definitely in the running for the bad decision Olympics.
Who also is driven by this need to like prove himself, by this pride, by this like desire to do a good job while not fully understanding. Like, it's this sort of story about like youth versus like the previous generation, right? And like thinking they have something to prove.
I thought that was a powerful scene too.
Marcus. Who like won't let it go, and won't listen to his boss, who like the head enforcer, boy, howdy, I didn't write her down either. But she has like an agreement with Vander, right? To keep the peace. They both agreed like, listen, we understand the situation sucks. We both understand it's bad, but like you keep the underground to itself and we won't come down and mess with you. You police yourselves. And, like, we will leave you alone as long as you don't come into our world. And once that happens, like, we have to respond. And so they have this very uneasy peace, but there are people who, like, think they know better, who can do better. And you see Vi making that decision. And you see Marcus making that decision, both on different sides.
I thought that was powerful. I mean, like, everybody's kind of going through similar journeys and have similar themes. And I think it's so well represented. Yeah. So with Winona Earp, we were doing a thirst tracker. I made a bad decision Olympics tracker.
Great. Incredible. Thank you. I really just want this to catch on. It's the only thing that I call. It's the only thing I call this show.
So I have gold medal, silver medal, bronze medal tier. More than one person can get them. Where do you place sort of the characters in episode 1 and 2? Who's where right now?
This one's hard because this is the beginning. This is just sort of, these are the warm-ups to the games. Yeah, you really see it later. I think Marcus is up there in maybe Marcus, gold medal. Yeah. Like, just in terms of, like, he has begun to stir pots, right? He meets with Silco. He continues pursuing the underground and, like, starts to build this tension in Zaun, where people are like, oh, they're enforcing our streets, and they're, like, getting feisty with Vander as well. So you see his people as well being like, they're here and they're ready for a fight, let's give them one. And so, like, he's causing all of these pots to bubble over that, like, just by meddling. So I think Marcus right now is gold tier. Listen, I think Jace and Victor maybe are tied for silver right now. Just in terms of, like, Victor's like, magic? Why don't I ignore my boss? Because I'm the assistant to Heimerdinger. Ignore my boss. Go bring Jace his magic back. But also Jace for having magical bombs in the first place that Powder accidentally sets off and sets this whole thing in motion.
Yeah, everybody's like, what if I just did whatever the heck I wanted?
And I'm going to say maybe Vi gets bronze. I don't really blame her, though. I don't think children are allowed to compete in Bad Decision Olympics. But maybe Vi is bronze right now just because they didn't get rid of the crystals, the magic crystals, when they had them. They didn't hide them anywhere. Powder just kept them in her pockets. She, like, didn't tell Vander about it, who would have told her to get rid of them. And then at the very end of episode 2, Vi got the bunny down that she pointed out to Powder earlier, saying, like, I lost this toy and I could never get it back. And she got it down and gave it to Powder. And then Vander sees it and is like, Vi's made a bad decision. And I think that's where we leave the episode, where, like, his face is this realization of, like, hey, that's Vi's old toy that she wasn't able to get down off of the telephone wires there. And, like, his face just has that, like, because he also sent a message to the Enforcer, which we don't know.
People are making moves and things are heating up, that's for sure. So we actually didn't really talk too much about Silco.
Yeah, I mean, Silco is, you can tell he's the villain because him and his crony just have these gaunt faces, skeleton man faces. And you're like, oh, they're evil, good character design. But here's the thing. Victor also has the same character design. And I immediately, when I first saw him, I said, this guy's evil. But he's just making good decisions. Even though he has skeleton man face.
That's usually a dead giveaway. Skeleton face, bad guy. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. But Silco and his scientist friend there, who are working on their super-powered rat serum.
I think that, like, Silco being in a Bond villain layer, it's just like, this guy's bad.
Yes, with the gross mutated fish swimming by, you're like, yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's someone who, like, wins the Bad Decision Olympics because he's just like the honorary mention, because I don't think you can win Bad Decision Olympics when you are willfully trying to make bad decisions, when the goal is to make a bad decision. Like, he's actively trying to cause evil stuff to happen.
Like, I mean, on purpose.
And, like, experimenting on people who don't want it, getting cats eaten by rats. Like, he is doing Bond villain stuff.
Yeah, at this point in time, we don't know why he's doing that stuff.
No, but that is what he's doing. Before we close off this episode, did you have stuff you want to talk about with Caitlin? Baby Caitlin, who is a child?
Oh, all I wanted to say about Caitlin and Jace is, like, Caitlin's parents were paying for the apartment.
Yes, because they were his patrons.
Yes, and I don't want to spoil it, because I might be misremembering, because they had a friendship. And I'm like, do we learn about their friendship in these first 2 episodes?
So what we saw of Caitlin and Jace is that her parents are his patrons, so they were paying for his research. We see them as they are walking to the apartment as it's being robbed. She's carrying a box of stuff. And he's like, careful, that, like, don't drop that. That's your parents' money you're holding. And they, like, kind of joke about this, and then it explodes. And then they're a little bit upset because they're like, Jace's research almost got our daughter killed. And then when he loses the council meeting, when they don't decide to exile him, but they do strip him of his, like, academy privileges and send him back to live with his mom. Because he's fallen out of favor, her parents also, like, disown him. And so we see her sitting in the rain as he's, like, at the gate, and she's like, I'm not allowed to talk to you anymore. And he's like, I just wanted to say sorry. And she's like, you're still my friend, but, like, my parents don't want me to be seen with you.
Yes, that's right. And so in this first episode, the first few episodes, I was like, I feel like these two characters don't really have any chemistry. I'm always looking for a ship. And I'm like, but I hope it works out, I guess. But I feel like she's too good for him. That's what I felt like in these first two episodes. So.
Yeah. Also, I think she's younger than him, but I guess we don't know how much younger.
Yeah, all we know is that he's 24.
All I know is he's 24. Vi is a teen, probably. Powder is a baby.
Yeah,
Powder is
literal baby.
Young. That's all I got. And then Caitlin is probably, I don't know, she's probably like 18, 19, if I had to guess. She looks like baby, but I guess she could be older. We could look up their ages. I'm sure somebody has figured it out with the canon.
Doing that.
But yeah, in terms of ships, the only thing I got for you so far is Jace and Victor. Who
oh my gosh. Okay,
bros.
So we'll get into this later.
There's more interactions with them. But all I'm saying is at the council meeting where he was like, what if magic and science could be great? You see the moment Victor falls in love with him. Victor's like, what if? No, Jace, hold on.
Yeah. Okay, well, folks, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Yeah, thank you so much for coming on this journey with us and reliving Arcane or watching it for the first time. If this is your first time watching it, let us know what you think. Subscribe wherever you like to get your podcasts. Be sure to leave us a review. You can find us on social media. Let us know what you thought. Tell us your theories and try to keep it spoiler friendly for our friends who haven't seen it yet. Thank you so much for watching and welcome to the club. And remember, it's dangerous to watch TV alone.